Students, welcome to 5-7, the ambiguous case for law of signs. I apologize in advance for my voice. It's not at top quality today, but we do need to get this video up on the web. As you're looking at section 5-7, given the specific criteria where you have two sides at a non-included angle, there's a possibility that you could have no solutions for that triangle. You wouldn't be able to draw a triangle. Or you could actually have two solutions given the information for a particular problem. And in each type of problem that you work in 5-7, you're going to have to determine exactly how many solutions there are. It's very similar to looking at a grade that you have for a class, and determining what grade you specifically have, A minus, A plus, whatever. For example, looking at the screen, we have a 94.7 grade. And as we go down through the various cases, that would indeed be a case 1 where the grade is greater than 92.5. So once we get into a particular case, then we have to determine, is it an A minus, A, or A plus. In this case, it is a 94.5 as the lower boundary. So that gives us a grade of A, as we look and see that the grade is actually in between 94.5 and 96.5. So this is an illustration of how you determine how many triangles that can be drawn from a specific problem. Let's jump right in and look at a couple problems. The first one is you're given two sides, A and B, and an angle of A. We have to determine which case this is. This is actually case 2 because the angle A is greater than or equal to 90 degrees. So when we look in case 2, there's a couple things we have to look at. Is A less than or equal to B, or is A greater than B? In this case, A is greater than B, so that means there's one solution. So if there's one solution, we can use the law of signs, and we will find B first using the law of signs. And this is all based off of information given in the problem. So as we set up our law of signs, we're going to have to solve this for B, which means we're going to have to use the arc sign at some point to determine this problem. When you set up your relationship, then you cross multiply 3 sine of 112 is equal to 4 sine of B. And now we have to get B by itself, so we have to divide both sides by 4. And now to get rid of the sign on the right side of the equation, we have to use inverse sign. So B is going to be equal to the inverse sign of 3 sine 112 divided by 4. So when you punch that in your calculator, you're going to get B is approximately 44.1. And we can go ahead and write that at the top. And remember to use your squiggly lines for these angles and sides that we have to find, because they are approximations, they're not exact numbers. So now that we know B and A, we can find C, and then we can calculate the side C, which is the last two things that we need to find. To find side C, or angle C, we would take the sum of A and B and subtract from 180. So we have 180 minus 112 plus 44.1. And when you do that, you'll find C is about 23.9. So remember to use your squigglies. 23.9. The last part is to use the law of signs to find side C. So let me erase this. And let's use our law of signs, given what we found and what we know, to find side C. So we'll use A again, 4 over sine of 112 equals C, which we're looking for, over sine of the angle C, 23.9. So now we will cross multiply this. C sine of 112 is equal to 4 sine 23.9. Divide by sine of 112 on both sides. So indeed, small c is approximately 1.74 once you put this in your calculator. And if you notice, I keep forgetting my squigglies as well. So 1.74 for C. We found everything we're looking for, and now we've solved the problem. One last problem to look at is when you have two possible triangles that you can draw. We have to determine, once again, is this case 1 or case 2? This is, in fact, case 1. And in case 1, we have to find C sine A. Notice your paper says B sine A, but if you're given C, then you use C sine of A instead of B sine of A to determine which particular part of that case this is. This is the one that has two solutions, which will be the bottom one. I think you get 38.9 for C sine A, and that's less than 40, which is less than 50. So this is actually a two-solution problem. So let's take this and look at two solutions. The first thing we do, since we know there's two, the first thing we can find is angle C, based on what we're given. So let's find angle C. This will involve, once again, the inverse sine or the arc sine. So let's cross multiply. Divide by the 40. And then take the arc sine or the inverse sine of that. Okay, once we do that, we'll find that angle C, I got my squigglies right this time. Angle C is 76.27. We'll round it to 76.3 degrees. Now, based on that angle that we calculated, that's where we get our values for our two triangles. So let's look at the two different triangles that we can have from an angle of 76.3. We'll call it try 1 and try 2. That would be a 2. In the first case, C equals 76.3. In the second case, C is going to be equal to, or approximately equal to, 180 minus 76.3. So when we subtract, always take the difference from the angle and 180. That's going to give you 103.7. So those are the two angles that have the same terminal side, and we're going to use this to construct our two triangles. So we're going to use it's the same build-up as we did before. We're going to find the missing pieces, B, given the information that we know. So for each case, in the triangle number 1, we can calculate approximately what B is, because we can take 180 and subtract 76.3 plus 51. So when we do that, B is 52.7. And now, since we know angle B, we can find the side B using law of sines. Okay, cross multiply. And divide by B, or excuse me, divide by sine of 51. Let me stay over here. $52.7 divided by sine of 51. And so B, once you calculate that, is approximately 40.9. So for our first triangle, we've calculated all the pieces. B is approximately 40.9. And now we can go to C. Or excuse me, not C, but triangle 2. Triangle 2, we're going to do the same thing. We can calculate angle B. Remember to take 180 and subtract 103.7 plus our other angle at the top, which is 51. So B is going to be approximately 25.3. And now, based on that, we can find C, or excuse me, little b. I keep getting confused here. We can find little b based on this information. So, using law of sines, sine of 51, little b over angle b, this time is 25.3. Put the sign in front. We're going to cross multiply just like we've done before. And once you cross multiply, you will find that b in this case is 21.9. And that is your final answer. So I hope this helps. Make sure you look at the various cases and understand how to determine exactly how many solutions there are. Obviously, if there's no solutions, then you don't have to work the problem. I hope this helps, and make sure you work them and study them. Have a great one.